Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode is going to kind of, in a sense, kick off our deer season down here in Georgia. As you guys know, I have always been interested in like the Rompola buck and the whole story behind that. There's been a lot of things that have come out lately and a few people reaching out wanting to talk about it on the podcast. Well, today's guest is going to be one of those people that reached out. His name is Dan Schultz. He is out of Michigan, and he was around the area and the hunting scene and all that when the whole Rompola deal went down. So he and I are just going to discuss it. I mean, y'all are going to get to hear my, I guess, new my new opinion of this deer. Not going to go into it right now, but deer season in Georgia has started, and so far it's, as far as killing trike goes, it's been a bust. That deer, I think that our season started a week later than it did last year, and I didn't really take that into account. He's still around, but he has not daylighted when I was there. So still trying to figure that one out. Probably going to give that spot a break because I've hunted it twice already. And so next week, when actually the week of this episode dropping, me and Thor, maybe a couple other buddies, are going to go hit public. I've had some really good deer over there, so just got to put in the work for that, and we'll go after trike a little later in the season. All right, so before we get into it, obviously we're going to do our partners. First up is going to be Bow Hunting League. Obviously, the sign up is already over, but go, make sure you guys keep up with them on all the social medias. If you're a part of it, make sure you do everything you need to do to get your team on the board, as far as submitting your deer and all this other stuff. And keep a lookout, because there's some things coming between Southeastern Bow Hunter and Bow Hunting League that I think you guys are really going to like. So when that happens, I will definitely let you guys know. Sorry, I just ate and my throat's all like messed up. But anyway, next up is going to be Boutique. Michael Stonebreaker makes amazing custom arrow wraps. He builds custom arrows for customers, obviously. So go to the boutiquellc.com and check out everything he's got. And once you figure out, like, if you want to do a custom wrap order, or if you just want to buy some of the, I guess, pre-made wrap styles that he has, use the code SEBHP, and that gets you free shipping on all orders. Next up is going to be Osseo. The one thing I'll say about my sits, okay, the past 2 times, is my Osseo has kept me from being completely busted out. With that raptor pattern, even when the deer look up and see, like, say you get caught moving, which I did get caught moving a couple times, they might see the movement, but they don't know what you are. And I've got some photos of deer there while I was there. You can see me in the background, but the thing is, you can't see me. You'd have to look super close, and it's very difficult. Like, if I just sent it to somebody instead find me, they would not be able to find me. So that camera's been working amazing. I know they've got a bunch of new products that have just dropped. So go to their website, osseogear.com. In my opinion, it's definitely the best camo I've ever used. So I really think you guys that are buying it and using it, y'all are going to feel the same way. When you go to Osseo Gear and you complete your order and you're at checkout, use the code SEBH, and that'll save you 15%. Next up is going to be Summit Tree Stands. My Dual Threat Pro SD has been amazing. It is by far the most comfortable tree stand I've ever used. It's super quiet. It locks you into the tree. Like, older stands I've used, I've been a little bit worried about, like, maybe the strap breaking or platform falling out or whatever, and I've just kind of dealt with it. With this one, there is literally nothing about that stand that makes me uncomfortable. So I had a buddy of mine reach out to me today asking about the code and like what stand I recommend, and I told him either the Dual Threat Pro or the Viper. For you bigger guys, I've got the Goliath. For guys like me that are a hardcore bow hunter, you could obviously use the Dual Threat Pro because it has worked very well. I mean, I've had the opportunity to shoot a bunch of does, and I've been picky, so that's kind of my fault. But if I wanted to, that tree stand's not in the way, and it is so versatile, and it's great. So the Dual Threat Pro SD is a great one for bow hunting. Another good one for bow hunting is the Open Shot. I really like that one. I kind of still want to try it just to see, have like a backup tree stand, but all of them are good, man. So go to summitstands.com, check out everything that they've got. If you have a Summit and you want some new accessories, I know I've got the Fast Track phone holder. They've got a bow holder, rifle holder, accessories, hooks, all that stuff. They literally cover everything that you need. So when you do that and you place your order, make sure to use the code SEBH 15, and that will save you 15% off everything on the website. Next up is going to be Scout Tech. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Ryan. There's a lot of big things coming from them, from the new camera that just started getting tested, from the app getting more updates. I'm very excited. So, my Scout Tech cameras have been great. I'm actually going to be putting out another one on public either tomorrow or next week. I'm not sure. But yeah, man, season's rolling, so we got to get on it. And Scout Tech has never let me down. And I really don't think, there's, in my opinion, I haven't seen a better camera system, camera company, customer service, all that stuff. So go check them out. The deal that they were running is over. Yeah, it's definitely over, but still go check out their cameras, be on the lookout for the new one. And they will be crucial to what you see and what you kill in the woods. Next up is going to be Ace Hardware and Social Circle. Haven't been up there in a while. Haven't really needed to go, but they are a great bow shop. If you need any work on your bow done, or you need any sort of products or gear or anything like that, they got you covered. So go check them out. Great bow shop. Next up is going to be Bergie Bowsmith. Again, awesome bow tech. Will get you completely dialed in. And I mean, honestly, man, Bergie's just a freaking well of knowledge. Like, the dude knows so much stuff. And now on his website, Bergie Bowsmith, he's actually selling other products than just his own services, servicing bows, but he's also selling, like Day 6 arrows and a few other things. So when you do that, go to bergiebowsmith.com, check out all the stuff he's selling. If you see anything you like at checkout, use the code SEBH10, save 10%. Next up, this is the one I've been looking forward to talking about. VPA. So I finally got my Omegas with bleeders. I sighted my bow in today with it. They fly exactly like my practice points. Dude, I'm so stoked. I did have to go up about 25, 30 grains in arrow weight, but I like a heavier arrow anyway. And I've been wanting to do that. I've just been waiting to get these broadheads, and they fly amazing. They're super sharp. I wish that I was going to be taking them out in the woods this weekend, but it's going to be super hot here. For those listening, it's the weekend that just passed, but it's going to be hot. And, maybe the deer are going to be moving, maybe they're not. I've got to reset a couple of things and figure out where I want to go next. And I just don't have the time to do any of that before tomorrow. But VPA makes an amazing product. The Omega with bleeders is fantastic. The original Omega is fantastic. I've used it, killed a doe in 30 seconds. The S7, I should have tested it on some does. I'm sorry that I didn't. I was, again, being picky. But they fly great. They're super sharp, easy to sharpen. All of them are easy to sharpen, and they make over 70 different broadheads. So if you haven't checked them out, go to vparchery.com. Check out everything that they have on the website. And, once you pick out what you want, use our code SEBH10, and that'll save you 10%. Next up is going to be Dialed Archery. Once again, talking about sighting bows in. My Arxos, it took 5 minutes to sight in my new arrow build and all that, or I guess really just the new heavier broadheads and all that stuff that I was shooting. But that sight is amazing. I mean, it truly, truly is. It looks great when it's dark. It's got that little cover that will dim or brighten your pins. Super easy to dial, super easy to sight in. It's built very well. Probably the toughest bow sight I think I've ever used. I just love it. So go to dialedarchery.com. I know we're in the season right now. You're probably not going to be looking at getting a new site, but say you have your current site messes up and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to get something that's not going to happen with. Dialed is the place to go to. So check out Dialed Archery. Next up is going to be Camo Dust. I really was going to save this. I'm going to say this as quick as I can, but Camo Dust works. Okay. There's a lot of people out there that, and I understand where they're coming from, right? Like, there's a lot of people that say, oh, all this stuff's a gimmick, or, oh, you can't completely conceal your scent. I'm going to tell you right now. Okay. So yesterday when I was hunting, the wind was very shifty when I first got in. Does came in at about 4:00. I dusted down. I did not shower. I had sweated all day. I was sweating getting up in the tree because it was like 85 degrees outside. I dusted down a lot. Now, does it help that you have to do that? Maybe not, because you're going to have to buy more, but it's worth it, and it's not expensive. I dusted down when I got out of the truck, and obviously put all my clothes on. I dusted down before I even put my clothes on, right? I dusted down in the tote, got all that covered. Didn't wash my clothes from the first time I hunted. So we're talking a few days later. They're still sitting in the tote, dusted it all down, got out, put them on, dusted down, got in the tree, dusted down. I never got busted, no matter which way the wind was going. I had deer coming from behind me when the wind was blowing towards them. I had does in front of me and the wind was blowing towards them. Never got busted. Um, Dude, I'm telling you, it works. It truly, truly works. So go check out Camo Dust. I know that's kind of long. I'm sorry, but go check out Camo Dust. If you do it right, it'll work for you. Um, I stand by that. So next up and last is going to be the typical sportsman. If you don't know who that is, go check him out on Instagram. It's my buddy Dylan Ray. He actually runs the Bear Archery podcast, and he he now has a website where he's selling shirts, hats, all that stuff. And he gave me a code for you guys. Use the code typical20 at checkout when you pick out whatever products you or whatever apparel or gear or whatever you want. And that'll save you, I believe, 20%. So that is a really good deal, really good discount. I don't know how long we're going to have it for. He is actually coming on the podcast next week, and we are going to be talking all about the new Bear Archery lineup, and that is actually going to drop the day after they. It's either going to be the day after the day of. I'm not really sure yet, but it's going to be the day, one of those 2 days, where the new 2025 Bear Archery lineup drops. And so I'm sure we're going to be talking about his stuff. I know I actually want to talk to him about that, and just go support him, dude. He's a good dude, good Christian man. Runs a great podcast, and I just wanted to try and help support him. So typical 20, that's at checkout for typicalsportsman.com. Awesome shirts, awesome everything really over on that website. So got all the partners out of the way. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Rompola buck this time. I've had some people reach out and say, oh, that's all you ever talk about. It's at least been a year since I've truly, truly talked about it. It's been a lot of stuff coming out. And honestly, if you don't like it in this episode and you don't want to hear about the Rompola buck, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Tune in next week. It's okay. Yeah. So before we get started with that, obviously I always have to say it. If you don't know who Jesus Christ is, okay, obviously you know who he is, but maybe you don't know him intimately or I guess as much as you probably should. And what I mean by intimately is it's one of those types of relationships where it's like a best friend, like a father, right? We all hopefully knew our fathers growing up really well. They taught us things. They were there for us. Well, he's there for you in all situations. Okay. I've got some buddies right now that are really, really, really going through it. And every day, man, I have to tell them, like, listen, I understand it's tough, but when God closes one door, he opens another, right? And he's always got your back. And I don't doubt that. I truly, truly believe that. So if you're struggling with anything, please just give him a chance. Okay. I'm not going to shove it down your throat, but just please, please give Jesus Christ a chance. It'll probably change your life like it did mine. Okay. So we got that out of the way. Rompola Buck episode with Mr. Dan Schultz. Let's go. So as you know from the intro, as you know from the title, this episode is going to be primarily about the Rompola buck. And we've got Mr. Dan Schultz on here today out of Michigan to talk about it. And we're just gonna kind of give our opinions and what we know, the new things that have come out. But before we do that, Dan, why don't you let everybody know who's listening, I guess, who you are, how you got into hunting, and what that beautiful sign behind you is.
All right, so I'm like everybody else. Dad brought me into hunting. I started guiding in southern Michigan. Oh gosh, probably in the early '90s, and from there I had moved north here in 2004. I kept guiding, but it was a real struggle up here because the deer, you don't have that quality of deer that you want to use when you're guiding. But as far as I kept doing that, and again, it was a struggle. But I had brought a grunt call out on the market in I think it was 2010-ish is when I brought that out. Got away from that and started full force hunting products, which keeps me busy.
Yeah, I bet.
Keeps me so busy, especially this time of year. I've done a few shows here and there already this year, and it takes up a lot of my time. Trying to find somebody to work.
Yeah, I've heard right now that is tough. And I know
Yeah.
people looking for jobs, but they tell me they can't find anything. And then I got buddies that own businesses and they're like, we can't find anyone. I'm like, well, let me give you this dude's number, man. Like, it's ridiculous. Why am I the middleman here?
I moved this way to guide because of the Rompola bug.
Oh, okay.
Thinking, I mean, I'm thinking I can get on deer like that.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing I noticed was it wasn't going to happen because, food plots up here just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And you really got to do your homework. You really got to do your homework. So, I've been kind of, watching this whole Impala thing unfold, and it just seems like it's a never ending thing. But there's things that I have noticed over the last week that I've been looking at that have not been brought out.
Oh, okay. Well, now you piqued my interest. All right. So where did you start? Like, where did it start for you with the Rompola buck? Because when this whole thing started, I was 3 years old. And I don't know if I've said this on here before. I may have, but that was probably one of the first big deer because my uncle was a deer hunter. I didn't even start hunting till like 5, 6 years ago. I've always been into it. He just never took me, and I never knew anybody else that hunted, right? But I'd always known about that deer. I'd always thought it was real. I didn't know the story behind it. And after, starting the podcast, getting into hunting, getting into the industry and hearing all these stories, it really has like kind of captivated me as far as the story goes. But for guys like you that were around, in all of that when it was happening, like what was the first thing you heard of when that deer started, I guess, hitting, the pages and stuff?
Actually, I found out about it. I was actually taking one of my bucks into my taxidermist, and he had become a good friend of mine, and we always would play jokes on each other. And I walk in with my deer head, and I'm like, here's another one. He's like, man, did you see the one they shot up in Traverse City? And he shows me this picture. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He goes, no. He goes, shot up in Traverse. I'm like, shut up. It's like, no, it was shot up in Traverse City. And that's the first time I heard it.
Wow.
And from there, at that time, I was living in the Detroit area,
mm-hmm.
Where I grew up. And it was all over the news. It was big. It was really, really big. And it's, I was on that bandwagon all the way up until about January. And that's when
January of this year or
yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get into why you're not on that bandwagon anymore, what about it like kept you there? Like what about it kept you thinking it was real for that long?
I didn't see the evidence.
I got you.
And so we all know about the fans page.
Mm-hmm.
We all know about the skeptics page.
I love them both. They're so much fun, man.
I had always belonged to the fan page
mm-hmm.
for years. And it wasn't something that I looked at all the time.
Yeah.
Just something, if I was bored, I'd skim through it. And I questioned, I put a question on there like, well, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, well, doesn't anybody else see this? And then bam, I was kicked off the page. It's kind of like, all right, whatever. Somebody's got a wild hair up their butt. They didn't like my question, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's like, well, there's the skeptics page. And I'm like, okay. So I went on there, and that's when I really was kind of like, oh wow,
mm-hmm.
this is really making sense to me now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have pages and pages and pages of pictures of, I mean, everybody's probably seen these pictures of these, 26, 27-inch wide bucks.
Yeah.
But there's something people are overlooking on these pictures. We'll get to that here in a little bit.
Yeah, because I think I know what you're talking about that they're overlooking, but so my whole thing with the Rompola buck was like I said, I thought it was real pretty much my entire life. And then I got I can't remember if I messaged the Instagram page, the Rompola buck, or if he reached out to me. It was one of the two, but I got to know the guy really well. He came on the podcast twice. I was trying to do like a Rompola buck series just to get all the information out there. There was plans made to go to Mitch's house. There was plans made to like send him a letter, like do all these things to try to get him on. And because I was on the fence after hearing everything I'd heard. And, I'd watch video after video. I followed the fan page. I followed the skeptics page. I looked at some, like high fence deer. And I'm like, okay, well, their antlers kind of sort of do the same thing, but they're not typical. I could never figure out a way that somebody could fake it. And then I asked my taxidermist one time, I was like, hey, what do you know about this deer? He's like, man, I don't, because in Georgia, it's not really that big of a story. It's a big story, but it's not like how it is for you guys up there,
You get sick of it.
Do what?
You get sick of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got sick of it because I'd be getting texts all the time with like a bunch of different things. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like it could be fake or it could be real. We don't know. I wasn't there. Right. But the taxidermist was like, dude, it would be so easy to fake that. And I was like, okay. So I just left it at that. And then more stuff comes out. And, after hearing everything I heard, I'm like, well, I don't know. I still stayed on the fence. That has changed recently. But okay. So what kind of I guess evidence did you see that made you second guess it?
All right. So when I look for the pictures here, well, we're just going to jump right to 2001.
Okay.
Now we live in an area that I got a beach in my front yard. Mm-hmm. It is we just live in sand.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get a deer that's going to produce something like that, he's going to have one or two things. He's going to have age and nutrition, maybe genetics. Mm-hmm. Genetics only plays a certain part. He's got to have nutrition for that. So when we jump forward to 2001 and we look at this buck that's 26 and a half inches wide. This is the one he shot in Kalkaska.
Yeah.
It's the county I live in. Okay. He shot this December 4th. And I'll when we edit this, you can put the picture up. But one thing I don't see there is snow. All right. We live in a snow belt area. Now, granted, we probably, I tried to look up how much snow we had that year on that day, if there was any snow around, and I couldn't come up with anything. But just to give you an idea what the snow was like here, 2008, we had 12 foot by Christmas.
Whew. Good Lord. Okay.
We get a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's a lot of snow. All right. Like Colorado level.
That's an exception.
Yeah.
But we do get dumped on.
Yeah.
It's not snowstorms, it's lake effect snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's picked up off the lake and gets dumped on us. So that Kalkaska County here is bad. It gets bad here.
Yeah.
So there's a question on that. In 2002, he shoots a 151. That looks like deer that would come from this area.
Yeah.
We'll jump to, again, 2002. He shoots one that's 25 and a half inches wide. So you're shooting these deer. This one scored 151. This one scored 160. How do you get lucky?
Are these the deer? Because a lot of people that do follow this, like that, if you go on Google and you type in Rompola whitetails, right? He doesn't have the website anymore.
Right.
I did this years ago, and I saw probably all these deer you're talking about, especially the one you just showed a photo of. I saw that one and was like, there's something weird about that. Because I've got buddies that live in Michigan. One of my buddies lives, I don't remember what part, but I think like maybe 2 hours away from Detroit. And he goes out there all the time. And he and I talk every day about, deer, right? We've talked about the Rompola buck. And he said the same thing. He's like, dude, up in like northern Michigan, you don't get, you don't, oh, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right. Weird technical issues there. But anyway, yeah, so we're talking about like, the Rompola buck and the type of deer that you guys have. And he sends me photos of big bucks that are killed around the state or seen around the state or whatever. The one thing that I never see is the type of frame deer that Rompola killed. And then when you look at the photos, there is no convincing me that some of those aren't does with antlers on their heads. It's obvious. And it's like,
all right, let's really put this into perspective.
Yeah.
All right, so before Mitch, there was only 4 or 5 recorded deer that were 25 inches or wider.
Yeah.
He comes along on over a period of 4 or 5 years, and he shoots that same amount. At that time, when we're talking about the early in the 90s through 2000s, we had close to 1 million hunters in this state.
Mm.
And you can't tell me somebody hasn't shot a deer other than him like that, where the antlers come out the side of the head.
Yeah.
So when I first moved up here, being a guide, when cameras were available, I was running as many cameras as I could. Mm-hmm. I'd run, even to this day, I still run probably just for myself 10 to 20 cameras. And and after talking with my friends and there's other guides that are still up here, and I ask them, do you guys get anything like this on camera where it comes out the side of their head? Like, no. So if he shot these deer, as many deer with the antlers coming out the side of the head that are 25 inches or wider, you would see the genetics through the deer. And you don't.
Well, what's interesting about that is after he killed the famous one, every single deer he killed after that had the same frame, had the same coming out the side of the head. And it's like, to me, just using common sense, it's kind of, it doesn't make sense, right? Like I've seen plenty of deer on cameras. I've got a few on the wall. I've only ever seen one wild deer, and it was a deer that Lee Ellis from Seek One was hunting.
Yes.
That was, I believe it was like a 180-inch 10 or something that just got killed last year. I saw the video he posted of that, and that deer looked a little bit like it was coming off the side of the head, but that's the only time I've seen a wild free range buck look like that. I'm sure they're out there, but
yeah, but how do you go from one county to another and you find these deer that look exactly like that?
Exactly.
I mean,
and that's just the antlers. That's not even the face of them, where literally you can if you cut the antlers off, like edit it where the antlers are gone, it looks like he's holding a doe. And it's like, dude, I understand that back then things were like, you could get away with things better. You could fake stuff and people could question it, but there really was no way of like, zooming in and doctoring the photo to actually see the truth. But it's like,
right.
I just don't understand it.
So in 2002, the second buck he shot in 2002 looks exactly the same as the others. And he claims that he heard of a buck that was, over 25 inches wide in a county 2 hours south.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he jumps in his car within 2-3 days. He had this buck in his vehicle. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I struggled with in the beginning is like, you got guys like Troy Pottinger and stuff who kill big deer consistently and had talked to Mitch, and they'll say, and I'm not trying to say like Troy is, vouching for Mitch or anything like that, but he gives him credit. He's like, the things he told me, I tried and it worked. And so it makes me wonder, like, was he actually a really good deer hunter? He could have been, but
So there was a here's did you read that article that was in the newspaper? Um, what it was, there was a farmer, and the farmer was um, being interviewed by a news reporter.
mm-hmm.
Now we're going back to early 2000s when you can trust the news.
Yeah.
The reporter asked, where have you shot all your bucks? He says, I've only got two here in the Michigan books, but the rest are from Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read that article?
I don't think I did.
All right. So this gentleman was a taxidermist as well, and Mitch at that time was taking his bucks to him, and Mitch had asked him, how did you get that buck? Where did you shoot that buck? And so on and so forth. So he told him as he wasn't a taxidermist. He worked for CBM and he was measuring Mitch's buck. That's what. And so he tells Mitch the story of how he shot that buck and so on and so forth. I guess a week or two later, he's reading this article about Mitch Rompola telling that reporter the same exact story. So it's stuff like that your credibility just goes in the trash can.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got the story of John Eberhart seeing the shed, and Mitch trying to, claim like, oh, this, I found this a week ago or whatever it was. And it's clearly weather checked. And God knows if that even really was a real shed. He could have found like a little, 20-inch shed and just added stuff to it. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are going to listen to this and think that, we're just haters or that we don't know the truth and they do or whatever. But it's like you have, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is like Hunter Podcast just had Cody Idle on there, who is the son of Dick Idle, who I don't really know much about him. But I know that he was around, basically checking all the big deer that were getting killed back then. And when he said he held the rack. You what?
Yeah, he was an antler freak.
Yeah. And so he knows what a real set of antlers looks like and what they feel like and all this other stuff. And Cody said that his dad told him, when I looked at that rack, it felt like it was molded together with clay or something. Yeah. And it's like that for me is when I was like, okay, hold on a second. People can argue that John Eberhart was jealous, right? And wanted to throw Mitch under the bus or do whatever. I don't know John. He's very, very brash, I feel like. And I mean, the dude's a killer. Don't get me wrong. Everything I know about him seems like he's one of the best whitetail hunters that we know about. But
let me say this.
Yeah.
If you come to Michigan and you see the terrain, you see the sand, if you can go out there and can consistently shoot 130-inch deer every single year, you're a god.
Yeah.
You're a god.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I mean, in southern Michigan, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
It's all flat farm country down there. Up here, and in the Upper Peninsula, if you can shoot 130-inch deer a year, you are a god. Because there's so much land.
Yeah.
I mean, it's vast. I could jump on a trail here and take it 30 miles to the next town and not see another house. And it's all tree hops. People are like, wow, this is like Alaska up here.
Yeah. That feeds into it though, because then people will say like, oh, a buck like that could survive because there's no houses, there's nobody out there. And it's like, yeah, maybe. Of course, there's going to be giants. Like I always look at that deer as like a genetic freak because I've never seen a buck be that wide. He looks like a bull, like one of those Texas Longhorns, just goes straight out. And I was like,
now, if he just came out and shot that deer and there was no other deer like that looked freakishly the same,
yeah,
I'd still be on that bandwagon.
Oh yeah, I'd be fighting for it. But he didn't. He came out with all those other deer that looked just like it, and it's like, okay, well now, you have a certain look to these deer you're killing, and I mean, okay, so down here in Georgia, a lot of the deer look the same. A lot of deer look the same, but that's because their antlers are on the same spot. The configuration might be weird. Like say you got some non-typicals, you can have a 3x2 or whatever. But to have deer where their antlers come out the side of their heads, that's not normal. And more people
No,
would see them.
no. Well, I think I was at this show a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about it. Everybody talks about it because once I say I'm from Fife Lake, which is right next to Traverse City,
Mm-hmm.
they always say, "Do you think the Rompola buck is real?" I get it all the time. I get it all the
Oh
time.
man, I bet that gets so old.
It does. It does. It really does. You know, we were sitting around. I had some buddies there, some guys that worked for me. They were there helping, and there was a gentleman that walked up, asked us, and we were kind of just talking about it. And someone, I can't remember who blurted out. They said, "Well, we know that his family had two game ranches in Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
whether they were just a breeding farm or a game ranch or whatever it was.
Yeah.
How hard would it be to transport that up there, feed it the same thing every day, and that deer would not leave because it would be that tame?
I mean,
If it was real,
yeah. You can argue that, but the problem is it's still going to want to roam. That deer is still going to be seen by other people. You know what I'm saying? Like
right?
it, it's kind of like how people wanted to say that like Seek One was flying deer in to Atlanta, right? And I know for a fact that's not true.
Right.
They've debunked that. I never believed that for a second, right?
So my brother lived in Harrietta.
Okay, yeah, I was up there today actually.
Okay. And when he was living down there for 10 years, and he was sending me pictures of deer in his backyard, and I was just like in awe. So when I found Seek One a few years back, man, I loved watching him.
Oh
And
yeah.
and you're gonna get the negativity no
Mm-hmm.
matter what you do. So my hats off to Lee and the guys. Those,
Oh
those
yeah,
guys,
they're
they're
absolute killers, man. And the thing is, I've used them as an argument, saying, "Well, look, they're finding these giants in Atlanta that none of us never knew were there. It could be possible that Rompola did the same thing." But to your point, if every other buck after that one specific deer didn't look exactly like that specific deer, then maybe it'd be a little bit more believable. But it's like you throw your credibility out of the window, then you disappear. Which I mean, look, there's a mystery to that. You know, the whole well, he's more of a deer than he is a human, and he gets along better with deer. It's like, okay, cool, that's fine, but what if you're going around all the stories I've heard that he was at shows and he was trying to strike deals with people and he had a few deals in the works. I know he had a bow company he was working with. He was working with Whitetail or not Whitetail Unlimited. Bucks. What am I thinking of? Buck Fever, right?
you you can look at this how you want. Like again, if he just shot that buck and that was it, over with, I'd still be a believer. But now that I live up here, um, dude, it is so tough just to get on a 130, 140 inch deer. It
Yeah.
is hard, man. I'm not saying they're here, but man, I run some serious cameras. By October 1st, I'll probably have 30 cameras out, just everywhere in whether it be a swamp or over acorns or hardwood, a ridge or whatever.
Mhm.
Just don't see anything like that
Yeah.
at
I
all.
mean, I've heard multiple different theories, like high fence deer, or he killed a big buck and then cut the antlers out or cut the skull plate out, took a skull plate from a high fence, put it on there, sewed it back up. I don't know what he could have done. I still don't fully know. Um, it seems like a lot of work to me to go through making the deer, taking the live photos of it, and then putting it out there, shooting it, having it not be bloated, having it not be rigor mortis, all this other thing, or all these other things. And like, I don't know how he did it, but again, after what Cody said about his dad and how it felt like you could tell that when you held it, it didn't feel right. I can't believe it anymore. I can't.
Right. Right.
So what other evidence did you have? I know we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, but what other things made you be like, I'm not buying this?
I'd like to know who this Matt guy is that he was always writing this stuff to.
Matt?
Yeah, it just says Matt. It says, "Hey Matt, hey Matt, hey Matt."
Hmm.
I'd like to get a hold of that guy.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. This one was 24 and a half inches wide. This one doesn't say where he shot it at, but it was, here's the clue. October 7th, 7:20 p.m.
Okay.
It is 7 o'clock right now. It's almost dark. So
it's too dark up there?
So at 7:20 in October, it's dark.
Yeah. Yeah. And what, the photo's not?
Well, what I'm saying is he has it wrote here that he shot it Tuesday, October 7th at 7:20 p.m.
Uh-huh.
It's his writing.
Oh, okay. So he's basically saying like he shot it. Man.
He shot it at 7:20.
And there's no way you'd be able to see legally.
Right. So and there's others in here that are in December. That there's only one picture in here that shows snow on the ground in December. And, that's this one here this is really odd. He says he got a giant 6-point typical, maybe the biggest in Michigan. And it says the third in the world. How is it that somebody goes out there and shoots these odd bucks every single year?
Yeah. In the same area.
And nobody, even to this day, gets anything like this on camera.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Andre DeQuisto. I've been looking at a lot of his stuff lately, and he was just on the Hunter podcast also. I've listened to that episode 2 times, and Andre is dead set on killing the typical world record, which if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him, right? But Andre, to me, is one of the absolute best whitetail hunters that there has ever been. How is it that Mitch could be better? I'm not going to say he couldn't be better. There's always somebody better. There's probably someone out there that has already killed the world record typical, and we just don't even know about it because they don't care. But that's the thing, is like people tried to argue that, like, well, Mitch doesn't care. It's like, well, if he doesn't care, why is he posting it? Why is he going to these companies and doing all of this stuff? And then when the fire gets pushed to him, he's like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with it. I was never going to put it in Boone and Crockett. I wasn't going to, put it in the books or any of that. It's like, dude, you're talking about the typical world record.
So
if
he didn't care, why would he start his own website?
Exactly. It just doesn't add up, man. And
no, it doesn't.
There was one thing I saw last year. Aaron Blicey had a guy on his podcast, the Fall podcast, and they were talking about this deer. I think it was like last October or November, maybe it was even 2 years ago. But he had him on, and there was this one photo that it was a deer that Mitch killed. It was obviously a deer he killed. It wasn't doctored, none of it. But if you look at the photo of that specific deer and you look at the face, the markings, the long nose, and you look at the quote unquote world record, it looks exactly the same. I mean, exactly the same. And I'm like, okay, so clearly, and this was one of those times I went, back over to the it's not real side. I was like, dude, well, that right there shows it. He just took that buck, cut the antlers off, manipulated it somehow, added 120 inches to it or whatever it'd be. And there you go. And that's,
Yeah.
and then people argue about getting it x-rayed and how none of these other bucks, like Dustin Huff didn't have to get his x-rayed. I'm sure the Hanson buck didn't get x-rayed. Why does Mitch have to get x-rayed? Well, it's because the deer is so weird looking. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe.
Right.
So,
and I think people knew about Mitch's past and how things just don't seem to line up.
Yeah.
At 9 years old, he kills the Missouri state record. And then again, he tops that at age 13. I mean, who does that?
I mean, it's not impossible.
It's all about that. Is it possible? Anything's possible.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the argument there. But the odds of that happening.
Yeah, the odds are yeah. And then you come up here and you shoot this thing. He shot a few before that, but you got to start questioning it, like the credibility.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a game ranch or a deer farm in Missouri. Did they just not pull that off the game ranch or whatever it was and say, hey, I killed it out here in the back 40?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you have any idea how he could have doctored it though to make it? Because like, I know Kevin Vistison with the Deer Hunter podcast did a whole series on this like 3 years ago or whatever it was, which is what got me wanting to do it. Because I'm like, oh, well, it's been a couple of years or it's been a year. Let's see what new stuff has come out. And there was a lot of new stuff. But when he was talking about it, he was saying like, how is it that the antlers are all the same? That's the biggest thing. And he would point out the ear drooping too. And he's like, the ear droop isn't a problem for me. It's just, I forget exactly what he said.
I see that. I mean, I shoot a buck or a doe, their ears are drooping.
I've seen that before. But it's like, the thing is, if you look at deer anatomy enough, and especially when you have a world champion taxidermist like Nathan Killen on, and he even says, I don't have a problem with the ear droop, but if you look at it, you can tell the ear is down by the neck. That does not happen. They don't droop like that. And he's like, what it looks like is he cut the tendon that the ear is connected to, and then it drooped down, and he just didn't bring it back up. So I don't know, man. I mean, what was the space between the pedicles, like 6 to 8 to 12 inches or something like that?
Something ridiculous. That is like, that.
So I think it's pretty obvious. Both of us think that it was doctored. Something about that deer is not right.
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. And as for the rest of these pictures, they're all over 25 inches.
And that just doesn't happen up there.
No,
Man.
No, not at all.
So can you think of any argument that somebody could have to say, well, I see everything you're saying, but here's my side why I think it's real? Is there anything anyone could say that would be like, a valid argument, or is it kind of just you can poke holes in pretty much all of it?
Let's go back. I told you my buddy Derek talks to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek was on his bandwagon up until I showed him the evidence. And I just really knocked his pecker in the dirt. Derek would call him and say, hey, I got this situation. What do I do? And they were kind of like friends like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw all this evidence, I started showing people that were believers. And I'd say, did you know that he shot 3 or 4 other bucks that were 25 inches wide up here? And they're like, no way. Here's the evidence.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. This isn't real. And telling these guys and showing people that this is the evidence that's out there. What are your thoughts now? And they're like, I can't believe it. There's just no way. Because they know what type of hunting is up here.
Yeah.
They know how the soil is up here. It hasn't rained in 2 weeks up here. But I tell you what, I bet you all these guys with food plots around here are screaming bloody murder because they're all dead now.
Yeah.
Because it's all sand and the moisture just gets sucked right out of it. So the soil up here is it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Do you okay, okay. I'm gonna throw a hypothetical at you. What if he was baiting? What if he was illegally feeding it and giving it protein and all this other stuff?
At that time, you could.
Oh,
Yeah, they didn't ban baiting up here until a few years ago.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I remember when I first started guiding, I was ordering carrots by the semi, and
Hmm.
I'd get like 3 or 4 ton carrots in, and that's
Gee.
how we would just go and throw 50 pounds of carrots out at each spot.
Yeah.
So that's nothing. A lot of people have grown up. That's how they know how to hunt. That's all
Yeah.
they find a nice, pretty looking tree and they go throw bait out.
Hmm.
And that was huge back then. Huge, huge.
So that
So
that kind of wouldn't play a part in it then.
corn, carrots, sugar beets, apples. Um, you know, they would just load it up truckloads and just dump it.
Huh.
So
So I mean, do you
one
think like all right, so does your buddy like still talk to Mitch or does anybody
I
that does anyone
I don't
talk to him?
no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I just
And there's been time I know where he lives, and there's times I've been wanting to go knock on his door, but he's
yeah.
not going to answer it,
Well, I had
especially
a buddy
when I deer head
that
on my truck.
yeah. Well, and that buddy of mine that runs the Rompola Buck Instagram page went to his house. He sent me photos in his driveway, said he knocked on the door, and that, nobody ever answered. And what's kind of interesting, because he would call me up and tell me all these things, and he'd send me, pictures of the Rompola Buck and deer Mitch killed and tell me all this information about y'all's area. And what's really interesting to me is he said something one time. He said, I've had people, tell me that Mitch is in that group, the fan group, under a different name. And he was like, I've even had people claim that I'm Mitch. And I'm like, huh. Okay. So I kind of put that in the memory bank, right?
Yeah,
So couple years go by, and there was this video that just came out a few months ago of this guy doing like, it was Deer IQ. They did an episode on this.
I
And
watched. Yeah,
yeah. And so at the very end, he was saying, I went to Mitch's house and I knocked on the door and I didn't get an answer. So I put a sticky note on the door saying, hey, I want to do a story on your deer. I've got this podcast thing going or this YouTube thing. Here's my number. Call me if, whatever. He said the very next day, he went back. The note was gone and he got the Rompola Buck Instagram page followed him. And I was like, all right, that's not a coincidence. I'm
yeah,
like, so either the dude I was talking to was Mitch, which he didn't sound like him, but it's been 20, 30 years since anyone's heard his voice, right? It
right.
was either him or that dude that I had become buddies with who runs that page went over there the same day or was there. And I'm not going to say he was like stalking him or anything like that, right? But
Right.
dude, it was weird. It was really weird because I'm like, because he sent me photos of deer that were up there that were, I mean, I'd shoot them. They're like 150s, they're 140s, like they're good bucks. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to not have deer like that? And they were legit. Like you could tell these deer were actually alive and not, freaking Texas Longhorn.
There, there are really good deer up here. And when I say if somebody can go out and shoot a 130-inch deer a year here, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's very, very tough to get on them. But don't get me wrong. I see guys shooting, 150s, 160s. They drop every year.
Yeah.
But do they drop every year that are 24, 25 inches wide? No, no.
That's crazy. Isn't y'all's book like your boon? And I could be wrong, but isn't y'all's minimum in the book like 105 or something like that for CBM?
DBM, I don't know. I don't pay attention to it.
Okay. Somebody said that one time that it's like and it may have even been Boone and Crockett, which I highly doubt, but or
Well, if
Pope and Young, or one of
it's
them.
just BBM, I would say probably if it's just Michigan, they probably do that for archery.
Okay.
You
And
know,
that right there tells me, like, Michigan, I know, I mean, I've seen photos. My buddy that hunts up there, that lives up there, he sends me photos every day, and there's some really good deer over there, but he's
well,
not in the same area as Mitch.
over my shoulder here, that was 152.
Yeah, see, there you go. And that came out of Michigan, right?
There's one right here that was 163.
So you guys
So,
have them, they're just not in that area.
uh, no, this one here was shot down the road.
Oh, well, there goes my
But
argument.
but no, I've learned one thing here. Um, Hunting private ground here, farm ground, is not where you want to hunt.
Really?
No,
Why?
no. There, the the woods. There's really there's no swamps. It's open hardwoods. So you have a hard time keeping a 4.5, 5.5 year old deer here. They always at 3.5, 4.5, they're gone. They don't like this open farmland.
I get that.
So where I go hunt is it's thick cedar swamps and just like the stuff you see in these pictures that Mitch has got it. I swear a couple of those look like the same exact spot.
Shoot, it might be. And that's what bothered me so much, like, about the whole story is I've listened to things that he said in videos that he was in, and I'm like, dude, that makes sense. I've done that exact thing and have gotten, but I haven't killed any yet, but I've gotten really good deer on camera by doing some things that he said. Like, scrapes and stuff are one of the most important things that I use every year. And it just blows my mind that, he can say all these good things that actually work. And I'm sure he's killed a, good number of really good bucks, but then you go and do some stupid stuff like that, doing a deer or creating a deer that if you cut 6 inches from the skull, then it actually looks legit. It looks like a 190 or 180 or something like that. But it just, I don't know, man. It
Yeah,
it sucks. It really sucks.
right. Like when this all started turning for me in January, and I'm telling all my hunting buddies, "Hey, man, this is the evidence I come up with," and they're like, they felt like they were cheated.
Yeah, I
Their
felt the
belief,
same way.
um, and we're never gonna know what happened or if that's really actually real or not. Um, where My question is, where are these other bucks?
Dude,
Where are
I've
they?
wondered the same thing. I've
Why?
wondered
Why?
that exact same thing.
You know, why aren't they displayed somewhere?
Yeah.
You
Well, and
know,
one thing I noticed too with the world record, or I guess quote unquote world record, if you look at the recovery video, the color of the bases being so dark,
dark.
and
Why
then
is that? I mean,
yeah, why are they so dark? And then when you look at the mounted photo of like the deer on the wall, the antlers are all the same color. Like they're
yeah,
they're brown all the way through. And it's like, did you recolor them? There's no way. Because like that deer behind me over there is a chocolate rack. His rack looks the exact same as when I shot him 2 years ago. It doesn't change, right? I've
yeah,
had this other deer right here that I didn't shoot, but it was a gift that my parents got me when I was like 12. But it's probably I don't know, 135, maybe 140 buck. Here, I'll show you. So that
yeah.
I've had that deer for, let's see, I'm 29 now, at least 15 years. And those antlers were the same color now as they were then. Doesn't change.
So are you saying
So
he ran out of spray paint?
do I?
Are you saying he ran out of spray paint?
That's what I'm thinking. Either that or he just got lazy and didn't want to stain it and was like, oh, I'll finish it later. It just, the whole thing, man, like it's crazy that we still don't know. Because you would think somebody, like I know Steve Ranella was talking about making a whole documentary on this thing, which I wish he would. Um, it's just wild that, almost, what is it now? 20, how many years has it been? 98 to now, 26 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 26 years, and we still don't know. Nobody's been able to go up there and like knock on the door and say, hey, can we come in and see this deer? Because, people say it burned up in a house fire. That's not true unless it was in a different house. I feel like we need, like, the hunting community deserves the answer, because you've got things like the CJ Alexander situation where he kills a 235-inch gross buck that, I mean, that sucker's huge, right?
Right.
Like those big deer can exist, but the Rompola buck just seems to continue. I feel like we're never going to know, and it's always going to be a mystery until somebody breaks into his house and steals it and says, okay, let's go, which I'm not advocating for. I don't want anyone to do that.
Right.
But I don't know.
I think when that time comes, it'll be, Mitch will probably have passed on.
Yeah.
And whether it be one of his family members that has it and just wants to bring it out and get the controversy over with, that's when we're going to find out. I know exactly where he lives, and I'd love to go knock on his door, but I hear about all these people going to knock on his door, but he never opens the door. So why should I even waste my time?
Yeah.
So
what's crazy to me is, like, the dude has to leave his house at some point, right?
So how my buddy met him was, we were working at a car dealership in Traverse City, and my buddy was selling cars there, and Mitch came in to buy a car. And through that was back in, I think, 2010.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And ever since then, they had been talking. And I don't know. I don't know the last time my buddy Derek has talked to him, but I know there were big communication there for a long time.
Did he ever ask him?
Ask him,
like, is it real or is it fake?
No, I don't. No, Derek's not that type of person.
Oh, dude, that's the first thing I'd say. I'd be like, Mitch, just tell me. I won't say anything. Just tell me.
He's gonna say, yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
If I was in that situation, I'd say so.
Man, that's.
But that Derek was one of the guys that I broke the news to and showed him the evidence, and he was heartbroken.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people will be, And what's crazy is, I still, as much as I don't think it's real, a little part of me is still like, when that day comes that we do figure it out, I hope I'm still alive. Because, I mean, I'm only 29. There's plenty of time left. Mitch has got to be in his 70s, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, oh, I hope he kicks the bucket next year. Of course, I don't want that, right? Like, I hope he's had a good life. But I want to know so bad. Like, when I go up to Michigan one year in the next probably 5-6 years, I'm going to tell, excuse me, I'm going to tell my buddy that lives up there, dude, one of these days that I'm up here, we are going to Traverse City. I found Mitch's place on Onyx because I was just looking to see, and I found it. And I'm like, we got to go. I'll knock on the door. I'll freaking look his phone number up and leave a message. Like, I just want to try. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't live there. I've been to Michigan once because I'm originally from Illinois. So my family used to live up there, or my brother did. And we went up there once or twice. And I want to go up there so bad and just try. Because you never know, dude. What, like I said earlier, he's got to leave the house. So what if you roll up one day and he's just outside? You say, hey, man, my name's, like, if you did this, just roll up. My name's Dan. Can I talk to you for a minute?
Right.
It could be that simple. Or he could pull a 9mm out on you and say, get the hell off my property. And then that's it.
Right. So when we talk about Traverse City is the biggest city in northern Michigan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, Mitch was hunting private ground that butted up to state land. That kind of tells me he was very close to town. Because the state land is, well, now the way the town is now compared to back then, it's grown a lot since then.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, the population is big, and that deer There's no way nobody saw that deer.
Yeah.
There's just no way. So he got permission from a landowner to hunt. So where is that landowner at?
Yeah.
I mean, another thing is I was watching this interview with it was the Deer IQ guy, I believe.
Yeah.
He was interviewing Richard P. Smith, who I don't know why people want to interview this guy. He just knows Mitch, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't put his hands on the deer.
So he's going off of word of mouth.
Yes. He says, and while I'm watching this podcast, he says, yeah, he walks up on it, he videos it, and you can see the arrow sticking out of it. So I jumped online real quick to look at that video. I don't see no arrow. I mean,
I'd have to see it again because I did see a clip. I think it was on Instagram or somebody sent it to me. I don't remember where I saw it, but I did see a more extended clip in a much higher quality. And
okay.
I'll tell you, man, like it just at face value. Okay, take out everything we've talked about. If I was brand new to this, had never heard of this deer before, didn't know about the other deer afterwards, and you showed me that video, I would 100% tell you that is a legitimate deer because the enhanced video looks very convincing. Now the photos, like of him, the gripping, I guess he didn't grin, but you know what I'm saying? Him holding the rack and all that, that's questionable. Stuff looks a little off. The face looks a little saggy. To me, it looks like a really old deer. I'm sure it wasn't. It was probably 5, 6, whatever, or maybe even younger. But just the video itself, I could see that convincing somebody. And again, I don't remember if the arrow was in it or not, but
I haven't seen that version. I've only seen that 30-second, 40-second clip of him tying the kill tag on it and stuff like that. But he never touches the antlers. He never grabs them.
That's true. But even in the extended clip, he never touched them. And the color is off. In the video, the color is completely different than the photo. So,
wow, I got to see that one.
Yeah, I don't even know if I could. I'm sure I have it somewhere. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. Hell, it could have been the Rompola buck guy that sent it to me for all I know. But yeah, there's just so many weird things. Like I was saying, that dude getting followed by that account the day after he goes there, and the note being taken, like that to me cannot be a coincidence. The deer that Mitch killed afterwards that looked really wonky. One of them even like take away the other deer that he killed, just this one specific buck I saw. He's got the head up, the tongue's hanging out, and one of the antlers, like how on bucks when they come out, they kind of have that vein that goes up on the inside of the I guess the base, and then it goes up to the brow tine. That vein is facing forward. The other one's fine, but this one is facing forward in order to make it wider. And I'm just like, dude, I mean, could that happen? Yes. But it's also coming out of the side of the head. It doesn't look right. It just, to me, looks like he had a couple, sheds or big sets from the farm or whatever it was, and he just killed whatever he wanted to kill and then just screwed him on top and was like, here you go, boys. And it just, I don't know, man. Like, so, I want to know how he did it. That's my thing.
So, yeah, I'd like to play devil's advocate. I'd like to think that buck is real, but basically, in my opinion, there's just no way.
Oh, I agree, but I want to know how. Did he add to the antlers? Like, I'd love to see somebody recreate that, and there is one. So I think you and I talked about this when you first reached out to me, and we talked on the phone for a little bit, and I told you about. I think there's some museum or something up there that
it's in Jackson, Michigan.
Yeah. And it's missing an antler now or something like that. But back then, and I have the photo, this taxidermist made what some people call a Rompola replica. And what's interesting about it is it's the exact same So the story behind it is that this guy made two sets of these antlers where it's super wide, big 12. It's got the G2s. It's either G2s or G3s are kind of splaying out. That buck looks exactly like that. The story behind it is he made two sets of these. Mitch got one, and then this taxidermist kept that set, put it on another deer as kind of like just a, I guess for fun or something. And that's where people are like, oh, well, why does this buck look just like that? Now, I have nothing to back that up. This is just what I was told. But it is interesting that nobody can find that taxidermist. And that buck is still apparently there, but now it's missing an antler. And the way that the guy built it, it's not coming out of the side of the head. It's where they're supposed to be. That buck looks more realistic than the other one. So it just doesn't make sense, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know how he did it. That's what blows my mind. It's not whether or not it's real. It's how did you pull that off? And
a lot of body filler.
Do what?
A lot of body filler.
Apparently, because I don't know. I want to go up there so bad and figure it out because it's one of the, it literally that deer was my childhood. Like one day I'm going to go hunt and I'm going to kill something like that. And now it's like, it wasn't even real. And my whole childhood fell apart, but well, Dan, you got anything else on there, man? Any other evidence that people might not know about? I know there's the Hansen legal thing that happened. There was some other dude that I guess Mitch was kind of competing with or whatever at the time that started these rumors apparently. But is there anything else that maybe people don't know? Like, I think you mentioned something earlier about something came out this week.
No, what I noticed this week is when I'm looking at these pictures and the time of day.
Oh, okay.
That was, well, if you shot it at that time, then you're poaching.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Because I'm looking outside right now. It is 7:26, and there ain't no way in October he shot that at 7:30.
Yeah. I mean, I was hunting yesterday, and at this time, granted, at this time there was the neighbor's dog running through, so that was great. But I could barely see him, and I stayed an extra 30 minutes because the setup I had, I could see out in the power line, but I couldn't see in the woods. Right, like it's dark in the woods, but the power line is good. And I mean, in a month or 3 weeks, that's not going to happen. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So
no, it's in a month. It's dark here at like 6:30.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of people are they're gonna watch this podcast and they're gonna say, well, there's no new evidence. There's not, nothing substantial, this, that, and the other. But this is kind of to inform the people that don't know much about it.
Yeah.
People are just kind of jumping on the bandwagon, seeing what's truth, what isn't. And I'm going to still kind of dig into this. I've personally done 3 other podcasts on mine and about this. After that, I swore I wasn't going to do another one, but here I am talking to you now about it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fun because you can start talking to somebody about it, and then bang, they'll say something that makes sense, and it may mesh with something that you're thinking with. So that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, when I did those 2 episodes with that Andy guy, if that is his real name, dude, I went into it thinking it was legit. Like, really, I told him, I'm like, there's no way that it's fake. Everybody that says it's fake is delusional and all this other stuff. And after 2 episodes and about 30 phone calls later of him and probably 1,000 text messages and photos and all this evidence that half of it's for it, half of it's against it, I was like, I have no idea. And so I started doing my own digging and looking at the photos and having to maybe convince myself a little bit, like, okay, maybe he did kill this really, really big deer, right? And just wasn't about the limelight, wasn't about fame, all this other stuff, which to me, I'm not about fame or money or anything like that. Like, that stuff doesn't matter to me. But if I killed a buck like that, you better believe I'm going to go and be like, hey guys, look what I found, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and if
If you
anybody
shot a
wants,
buck like that, would you have to work another day in your life?
probably not. Knowing what these deer sell for, probably not.
Yeah.
But it's just the thing is, like, you have to use common sense. And to me, common sense says that if he would have killed it, like, if, okay, say he was in Iowa or Saskatchewan or Illinois, even any of these big, like, there's giants there, I'd believe it. I'd be like, no, there's way too much, big deer killed there that this buck has to be real. But
Right.
and even in Michigan, when I didn't know that there were small deer in Michigan, which I'm not trying to, there's small deer here in Georgia too, right? But Michigan's not known to be like a world record state. It's not known where people are like, oh, I'm going to Michigan this year and I'm going to find me a 190. Like that's just not what people talk about most of the time, right? And at
Right.
least not people I know. And to say that a 216-inch what was it, 38 or 36 inch
Yeah.
wide, like, dude,
Yeah.
come on. And there's stories of videos of this deer alive. You show me that video of that deer actually walking, I don't care what anyone says, it was real. But I
Yeah.
have yet to see
I
that.
agree. I
Yeah.
hear about it, but I never see it.
Dude, I've literally gone on that fan page and people are commenting on it and saying like, "Oh, I've seen the video." And I'm like, "Okay, well go get it. Post it." That
Yeah.
Andy dude told me, he said, "I've seen the video." And I said, "Who showed it to you?" And he never texted me back. And I'm like, "Okay, well, here we are." Like, what's with the mystery? Just come out and say it. It's a freaking deer. But
Right.
people, I think what it is they want the story to keep going.
Here's another aspect I want you to think about. Um, there's 13 counties here where I live that are now an antler point restricted area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They've been that way, I think, 6 years now.
Okay.
If if the soil was good, if everything was perfect, you would start seeing bigger deer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have so many hunters. So, like when I say, if you can go out here and shoot a 130 every year, you're a god. But we have so many hunters here that it's hard for deer to get past 3.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And for him to go out and just annihilate the bucks like this, I mean, there's I don't know 3 or 4 years in a row where he's going out and he's shooting two like this, and nobody else out here sees them in the woods. Come on.
Yeah. That was a big thing for me. And when Nathan Killen went on the Deer Hunter podcast and was pointing out everything wrong with those deer, I dude, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little depressed because I'm like, wow. And I looked at it while I was driving. I'll admit it, I was driving and listening to this, and he said, if you go on Google and you type in Rompola whitetails, you can see all of these. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm doing this. So I do it. And I look at my phone and I look up and I look at my phone and I caught myself almost going off the road one time because I clicked on that one I told you about. It looks like a doe that's got antlers on its head. And I zoomed in and I'm like, yeah, that's 100% a doe. You can tell. You can absolutely tell. And
Is
that
that
right there,
is that website still up?
no, but if you go on Google and just type in Rompola whitetails, you'll see a lot of the world record. And then you'll see more photos of his,
Okay.
of like the one you showed me.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
it's the doe or it's the deer that has the red, it looks like a red tag on its ear.
Okay.
And it's not a tag, apparently. It's a leaf from what people have said. But yeah, it's blatantly obvious because a buck's head is not rounded like that. Now, could it be an antlered doe? Sure. But she's still going to have probably a flatter head because she's rubbing that velvet off. So I don't know,
Right.
man. It makes me mad because it's like, you know, we we really do deserve an answer, but it's also somebody's life we're talking about. I mean, if I faked a deer and I got caught and people were calling me out on it, and my whole goal was to get in the industry, but I went about it that way rather than doing it like the way I am now, yeah, I'd
Right.
probably do the same thing. I'd probably be like, you know what? I'm nobody's gonna know where I'm at what I'm doing except like the closest friends that I've got, and they're probably not even going to know either because I just wouldn't want to deal with it. It's too embarrassing, right? So I understand, and that's why I'm not trying to like, you know, call Mitch out on his character or talk bad about him, but it's like, at some point I would probably want to man up and be like, okay, guys, this is what I did. For those who want to forgive me, thank you. For those who don't really need it, and just move
Right.
on. So
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
man, but
I've taken a big beating since January on my podcast, but that's a part of it.
yeah,
All I'm doing is I live here, I see it, and these guys that live in other states to say, "Oh no, it's real." I'm like, you really need to come up here and look.
yeah.
You know,
Well, and it's like here in Georgia, man. We our state is very interesting. Like we have, I feel like every type of hunting that you get in the country. Like we have mountain bucks, we have the ag country down south. Where I'm at, I'm in the Piedmont, so you've got like the rolling hills and the ridges and stuff like that. You go 3 hours east, you get the coastal deer. You go west, you get more of the big hardwood deer. I mean, if somebody did something like that here and it looked like that, I would have to like immediately I'd call bullshit just because I've seen wide bucks, but they've again never looked like that. I just feel like for people that live in the state, they should know that if they really hunt and they're actually out there hunting and paying attention to these deer, they should know what their deer look like.
right.
Do you get anomalies every now and then? Yes. I mean, look at our state record. I think it's like a 6 point or it's either an 8 point or 6 point frame, but the sucker's 248 inches. And it's got all these stickers and all this crazy stuff. Like you get anomalies, but not the way that Mitch's buck looked. I see that in Texas. I don't see that in Michigan or Illinois or anything like that. And even then, those Texas bucks maybe max out at 180, 190 like that. And then they start throwing kickers and stuff.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't know. It's depressing.
Well, when my taxidermist showed me that the first time, and I that's when I realized it was when I seen it on the news that it was real. I'm kind of going, but that doesn't look like anything that came out of Michigan. That was my first thought. But all right, it can happen.
Yeah.
I jumped on that bandwagon. I had no idea about these other bucks.
Yeah.
None. I knew that he had the Grand Traverse County archery record. What was that, 150 something or whatever it was. But when I jumped on the fan page and I started seeing all this, I'm like, this is not real.
Yeah.
And then we got to the skeptics page. I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit.
Yeah, definitely ain't real. Well, go on the skeptics page and look for that photo I was telling you about where it's the same face. And I've seen that you've seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that killed me about that is you go on the fan page and everyone's like, oh, well, you can't see a deer from its markings on its face. They all look the same. It's like, no. That buck that he killed, that's clearly a real deer, has that one point that comes up the snout. It looks like it's pissed off. Its brows are down. And you look at the other buck, it looks the exact same way.
Yeah.
I have plenty of photos of deer on camera and none of them look like that. And none of these bucks have the same face either. They're all a little bit different. So I don't know, dude. It's I feel like common sense shows that it's not real. And people you and I both know common sense ain't that common anymore. But to hear people, like I said earlier. Yeah, I mean, really, I say it more than I'd like to, but hearing people like Dick Idle and John Eberhart who have seen these deer, they've been hunting deer longer than I've been alive, and they've seen so many, and especially Dick Idle holding all of these giant racks, and to the things that he said about it, it's like, dude, the guy's not out here trying to, he just wants to find the biggest deer. He wants to I don't remember if he was scoring them or what he was doing, but he just wants to find the biggest deer that are in the country and do whatever he did with them. And when he says that that buck, those antlers felt like they were made out of clay or putty or whatever it was, dude, I'm inclined to believe him.
Yeah.
He knows what he's talking about.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know, man. But
Maybe we can dig a little more and touch base again through the season.
yeah, because every year stuff comes out. I mean,
Um,
there's
yeah.
always things coming out, whether it's real or not. But I guess
Maybe I,
before, go ahead.
maybe I can convince my buddy to come on here and talk about
Oh,
it too.
dude, I would absolutely. I have so many questions for him. So many questions. Like,
I don't know how in depth that they got. I know that, he had his phone number and he talked to him and, and
does he still have it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
I'll ask him
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. And
Oh, man. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Somebody's going to figure it out. And when that day comes, because the thing is, like, at first I was on Mitch's side when I heard about the Hanson stuff. Cause I'm like, well, of course, Milo Hanson doesn't want his getting taken down. It's a money thing, yada, yada, yada. Now I'm like, I understand why Hanson did it. And the fact that all Mitch had to do was get it x-rayed to prove it, and he wouldn't do that.
yeah.
Dude, you're either stupid or way too prideful. Like, that's the only way I see it. If it's real, if it's not real, then, why go through all that?
Oh, I agree.
Um,
I agree.
I
All
don't
right,
know.
Holden. So yeah, let's keep in contact.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Before we wrap it up, plug something for me. Tell us about the Full Force. You said you had a
all right.
podcast. Let's do a shameless plug real quick.
So Full Force Hunting Products, we carry attractants. My rope kits are the hottest thing going right now. You get the rope with 3 different scents. If you guys jump onto the Facebook page, Full Force Hunting Products, you can see our ropes in action. Another thing is our buck sludge. That's a big mover. Minerals. I have other attractants that are out there. Guys that are not big into minerals, but they don't want to, big. They just want something they can throw in their backpack. Our attractants are awesome. As far as the podcast is called Full Force Outdoors. I haven't been doing much on it the last couple of months just because I have been slammed busy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just things are cranking right now. I think next week we'll start to slow down a little bit and I can start getting more cameras out for my deer hunting and go from there.
Yeah, man, because you guys only have, I mean, I know your doe season starts this weekend, but what, you got 2 weeks and then season opens, right?
Yeah, they messed around with our dates now. Our archery season is October 1st through the 14th of November. Now we have 2 months of gun.
Oof.
Is that crazy?
I mean, it's a lot like Georgia. We started last week, and the gun season comes in second or third weekend of October and goes until the end of January. But
Wow.
yeah, but we also down here, like, I know y'all probably have a lot of deer, but we have a lot of deer. I mean, I only bow hunt, so I don't really care about the gun season. The only time that impacts me is if I get pulled for like a quota hunt or something, which I didn't get pulled this year. So everywhere I'm going, it's all archery or it's private. Um, so I mean, really, I don't see the impact of it, but I've got buddies that do, man. And they say, well, our gun season should be shorter, the deer season should be shorter. I'm like, if anything, it should be longer. I start getting back on them at the end of the season, dude. Like, I need 2 more weeks and I can actually get these guys. But yeah, I don't know. It's really not terrible. I've killed one deer with a gun, and for me, it people aren't gonna like it, but I felt like it was a little too easy. I like
Yeah.
being able to, I like a level playing field as much as I can. So,
Right.
but that's just me. I've got nothing against it. Like, I'm going on a gun hunt this probably November, just on a management hunt for a buddy at his club. But
I remember when my brother was living down there in Georgia. I think it was $30. He got 2 buck tags, 12 doe tags, a bear tag, turkey
yep.
tag.
Yeah. So what it is now, I actually just bought it last week. It's 10 doe tags, 2 buck tags. You can get a quota hunt, which is an extra 2 tags of either sex. And then there's check-in hunts. I mean, you could kill 5 bucks in Georgia in 1 year if you really, really put in the work and got pulled for these hunts. So I mean, we have them here. It's just there. The thing I've learned is, and I've never hunted out of state. I'm going to Illinois next year, so we'll see how it goes. But um, these Georgia deer are finicky. Like they are very, very cagey, very, you even blink. Like it happened to me yesterday. I had a doe somehow, I guess she saw me maybe move and shift a little bit in the tree stand. And I just blinked and she like looked right up and started stomping. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, really? So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We can bait. People think that baiting makes it easier, but I'm telling you, it doesn't at all.
Well,
So
so baiting here they made it illegal to bait like 5-6 years ago.
yeah.
Nobody stopped baiting. Everybody still does.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know.
I mean, you pull up to every gas station or feed market or whatever. There's corn, sugar beets, carrots, apples.
Yep.
All in
And they're selling it.
Yeah, they sell the crap out of it. So,
dude, that's a whole nother podcast.
what it's hard to hunt over bait. People don't realize that. The guys that say, "Oh, that's not hunting," it's not easy.
No,
it's not. Just because you're throwing bait out there doesn't mean they're going to come in.
Yeah, because then they have it overnight, and like I've told people before over here that the first 2 weeks of season, if it lands on a good week, so like I have this buck that I've been after for 2 years now, and he was showing up every single day, and I mean every single day, same time. I really thought I was going to get him opening day. What I didn't realize is our season this year started a week later than last year, and he's daylighted, but not when I was there. He's on his fall pattern now, and he's not going to daylight again until like middle of October. And it's like, yeah, I could throw as much bait out there as I want, and he's showing up, but he's showing up at night. So what am I doing? I'm wasting money and I'm wasting time. Yeah. So it doesn't make it easier. I mean, in some situations it can, but I haven't seen it. I've only killed one. Well, no, that's not true. I've killed 1, 2, 3. I've killed 4 bucks. I think 4 bucks over bait. And that I've only killed 4 bucks, but it was honestly luck. And one of them, it was during the rut. So like that had, the bait had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So does it make it easier? I don't think so, because they're all younger. I think my oldest buck behind me is like 3 years old. And these older ones that I get on, they will hit mock scrapes and they'll hit the bait at night, but they'll hit the mock scrapes in the day, but only in a specific time. So it's a learning experience, man. Like down here, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot different than a lot of people think it is, and I'm sure for you guys up there, it's the same way.
Yeah, it is. That's another podcast we can get into.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're about to go down a rabbit hole. We'll be here another 2 hours. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on and kind of, telling everybody about this. When we get you on again, hopefully there's some more information that comes out or some more stuff you might notice. For anybody listening, go check out Full Force Hunting Products. I've checked your stuff out. It looks really, really cool. Some of that attractant stuff is honestly pretty interesting, because we don't have, we have some of that down here, but the things that you've got, I would have to say, are a little bit different than what we have here. So yeah, anyone that's listening, go check it out. Check out the podcast. And Dan, is there anything else you want to tell these guys before we sign off here?
Just keep an open mind about the whole Rompola thing and just look at the evidence, plain and simple. And the evidence tells everything. It tells everything.
I agree. Well, it's a good way to end it, man. I appreciate it, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Later, buddy.